All right, everyone. We got some new technology here tonight, so bear with us. We're going to be working with that and working the bugs out, which I'm sure we'll have some bugs. Welcome to our council meeting of Wednesday, March 29th, 2023. Everyone's with us. Councillor Cornish is out tonight because of for personal reasons. Sorry. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered today next to Scoodic, the St. Croix River, on ancestral unceded territory of the Passamaquoddy, people who have lived here for countless generations along the river, in the lands throughout the watershed, and on the bay. Next up, I'd like to have approval of the agenda, that the agenda for the regular council meeting of March 29, 2023 be approved with the addition of the following late agenda items: proclamation for Lyme Awareness Month, 2023 community grant recommendations, and 2 financial closed items. So Councillor Harding, Councillor Heislip, any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much. Okay, next up we got I need a mover and seconder for the public and statutory hearings, Amendment M-2-04, the municipal plan, and Plan M-2 for PIDs 013054424 and 01305-168, brackets 8 and 14 Union Street. Deputy Mayor Wheaton. I'll second. Councillor Eastman. Presentation. Well, any sorry. Turn over to Vivian. Yeah. All right. So that. All right. So we'll do the presentation and then prove it after. Okay. Vivian, please.
So this municipal plan amendment is for a rezoning, and there will be a zoning bylaw amendment as well. So I think I'll just mention both amendments in my presentation, so council and the public will have an idea of what's going on. All right, so like I said, this is going to be a rezoning of 2 properties at 8 and 14 Union Street. They are highlighted on the map on the slide. The properties are located at the corner of Union Street and King Street. So one property has the building and the other property is just going to be used as the parking lot. The 2 properties are currently zoned R2B, which is a medium density residential zone, and the applicant wants to rezone them to NC, neighborhood commercial zone. And the reason is that they want to open an antique store at that location. And an antique store is a commercial use. It's not allowed in the residential zone, so they need a rezoning. The antique store, as you may know, is already open because they got a 1-year temporary use authorization from PRAC last October. But in order to have the store there permanently and legally, they have to go through rezoning, and that's why we are talking about this today. And just to give you a little bit of a planning background, so in plain language, there are 2 levels of zoning. The higher level is called the Generalized Future Land Use Map in the municipal plan, and that map prescribes the more general, like basically a land use category of a property. So you have residential, commercial, industrial, very broad category. And under that, in the zoning map, in the zoning bylaw, you have the more detailed zones like R1, R2, R3. So that means the 2 maps have to be consistent. And because this case, we are trying to rezone the properties from a residential zone to a commercial zone, we need an amendment to the generalized future land use map to reflect this change. So the land use designation should be commercial, and that's why we're looking at 2 amendments for this rezoning application. And just to quickly summarize, the amendment to the municipal plan is to change the land use designation to commercial, and there will be a zoning bylaw amendment as well to change the property zone to neighborhood commercial. to have the antique store there. And in the municipal plan, when you have a rezoning to the neighborhood commercial zones, there are a list of conditions that council should consider just to make sure the new commercial use is compatible with its residential neighborhoods. So staff put together this list of proposed conditions specific for this project to make sure it's a suitable land use. This is not really something we need to decide on today. It's more for after council has done third reading, and conditions will be discussed as a separate resolution. So just to let you know, for information purposes, it's not something we have to worry about today. And for bylaw amendments, the Community Planning Act has some specific dates that we have to meet in order to process it, properly. So staff put together this proposed timeline for council's consideration. This is the fastest route possible to handle this, the two amendments while meeting the Community Planning Act requirements. So like you can see today, we had the public presentation. Council could do first reading on the two proposed amendments and then put out a request for PRAC's view on those amendments. And then next month, council could do second reading and set a date for public hearing of objections for those two proposed amendments. And then in May, we could have the actual public hearing. It's usually like a half an hour session before the regular council meeting. And then during the council meeting, council could do third reading and then discuss the resolution for those proposed conditions for the rezoning. So that's the end of my presentation.
Any questions on that from council? All right, thank you. So we had a mover and we'd have the seconder. No questions. Presentation by Vivian, junior planner from Southwest. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thanks, Vivian. Okay, next up, I need a mover and seconder for the proposed resolution that the minutes of the special council meeting held on March 21st, 2023 be approved as presented.
So moved.
Councilor Heislip? Councilor Wright? Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Mover and seconder for that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on February 22nd, 2023 be approved as presented. Councilor Harding, Councilor Rodas. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Let's see, a mover and seconder for the report of the Chief Administrative Officer be acknowledged and received.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor Wheaton, Councilor Harding, and I'll put the floor over to you, Jeff, if there's any questions or maybe you want to talk about your package. On the
Your Worship, this reporting period, as Council is well aware, was eventful on a number of fronts. As noted in the report, my office was advised by the Mayor that we were going to cease the work on the standing committees and try and rethink that approach to getting some of our work done. I do think that, as a note in my report, that Council may wish to consider using ad hoc committees with more specific in terms of reference, narrower focus and deadlines for reporting to get a few things done. Specifically, one of the big ones would be some of the work that the governance committee had started, and specifically the review of the bylaws and policies, which we know need to get done in an expeditious way in order to allow the rural residents to have a better understanding of what bylaws are going to apply in the rural areas and what don't, and whether those rules will be the same or different compared to the urban area. We have a lot of work to do in that front, and I think it would be good to have a committee specifically tasked with getting those done quickly. As noted in my report, obviously, very well publicized situation with the Oak Bay Fire Department. My report is there. I will add to the report that Chief Morton and I had a very good chat with the Fire Underrater Survey folks, both our our regional rep here out this way, as well as the district person who's in charge of all Atlantic provinces. He was based out of Toronto, specifically about what's going on in the MD, and obviously for obvious reasons, what's going on at the Oak Bay Fire Hall. The meeting was very positive. The meeting was concluded with us having a plan forward to ensure that the classification system isn't going to be affected with what's going on. As far as our staffing complement, we have plans in place for the short term as well as the medium term. As far as we're always recruiting, we're establishing a committee of the volunteers themselves that will be heading up the recruitment effort and reviewing initial applicants. And there's already some names pending for that group to get together with. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll be starting to bolster those numbers back up again, we hope, based on the interest that has been expressed already. The huge thing here in town, obviously, was the situation with the municipal water supply. I think we tried to put out as much information on what actually happened there once the engineers in public health had met and went over the engineers' findings about what happened at the main well. It's an identifier that more work is going to need to be done in the coming days, months, years, as we continue to become more resilient in that regard. The reports from the engineers when they met with the Chief Medical Officer of Health and their team were very positive. Public Health was very appreciative of how quickly our team got on it, including our contracted engineers, how quickly we got a submersible camera into the well so that we weren't guessing anymore what happened, but we actually had images and footage that we could show them. I happened to be in Fredericton on other meetings, and some members of the Department of Local Government came and sat with me at my table, and were making sure that that I knew that anything they could do was on the table, because they had heard what was going on. So that was much appreciated, and I talked quite frankly about possibly the need for some funding in the short to medium term to make sure that well becomes a little more resilient than it is today. It's 105, 106 years old right now, and it's held the test of time, but it might be time to give it a little bit of help with some modern engineering and modern technology. Did want to express my thanks to our local press, who did everything in their power to help us get messaging out, including our local radio, who, when the order was lifted, I understand had just left the radio station and to go home, and turned around and went back to the station to make sure the messaging got out to the public as much as possible. I know there's been some people in our community disappointed in the communication strategies used. It's something that we're learning from. We haven't had a system-wide boil water order in very, very, very long time. Usually they're very localized, and we have the capability to go door to door, leave hangers, do everything we can to make a personal touch. More difficult when it's a system-wide situation. We have begun investigating some other technologies that are out there. The key point of these technologies, like I know people have mentioned it before, the one used by the schools to talk about school closures, is people have to sign up for them. And we do have one built into our website. We've seen a lot of people during the boil water order take advantage of that and are now in that system, which is great. But we're going to continue to look to see if there's other ways of doing things, because communication is always important, and it's always the most difficult thing in these types of situations. But we will be evaluating that as a debrief. Collective bargaining will be starting up with our union friends in the next couple of weeks. Our last agreement did expire at the same time as the town of St. Stephen ceased to exist. So we're looking forward to that. And just a reminder to council about the strategic planning sessions that are coming up April 20th and 21st. With our facilitator, who's flying in from British Columbia, and while he's doing a bunch of them in this area. The other thing that didn't make my report was, like I said, I was in Fredericton for the public transit symposium that was put on. It was very interesting. Obviously, regional transportation is now a mandate of the RSC. and there's going to be lots of, I'm sure, conversations being led by the folks out there. But it's interesting to hear the success and failure stories from all over. The big frustration, of course, being amongst the practitioners is the federal money that gets left on the table by the government of New Brunswick, who chooses not to put funding into public transit in this province right now. He was hoping that that meeting spurred some conversation amongst our colleagues at GNB and to rethink their position on some of that, because given our low population density across the province, it's going to take a leadership from the provincial federal side to make public transit work in this province. We can do little pockets here and there, but for our citizens that need to go to St. John for medical or things like that, there has to be a bigger, broader plan and vision. And we're hopeful that down the road there'll be some more discussion around that. But with that, I think that's the things I wanted to touch on, Your Worship. Happy to take questions.
Any questions? Councillor Heislip?
More of a comment, I guess, Jeff. I know it was a very difficult situation with this boil order, and I know a lot of people were upset with the communications, that we don't have a designated communications officer per se, and are employed with the town, and I know town employees were working really hard on that well, because I've seen Randy in the morning getting a coffee, and he never slept all night, but do we have a policy or procedure for notification, and maybe we should look at that? You and I and Vivian actually sat on that technology and innovation last year, but we never thought of that because it's something that we haven't seen for a while. So maybe it might be some merit in looking at a policy that somebody can actually take and say, okay, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and then we have something set, and then we can change when the need arises or technology advances. So that's something I'd like to discuss anyway, and we can have an ad hoc committee for technology and innovation again, because I'm sure it's probably.
No, it's a great point. I know the other comment that was out there was, why was it on the big digital sign in the courtyard? The honest answer was it wasn't plugged into power yet. It was there. It was standing. The electricians hadn't energized it yet. If it would have been a little bit later, it would have been definitely in use. But yeah, we're like I said, we're debriefing on the whole situation. But yeah, as you say, kudos to our team of our public works guys that they did everything in their power to deal with things as they came. And for a while there, they were coming fast and furious at us as things kept changing. But obviously, I'd like to express my gratitude for the guys at Public Health that, they were there too, and they feel like they're part of our team when these things happen, and they did everything in their power to get us results back quickly, and those last few results take 24 hours to incubate. That's just what it is. But yeah, definitely a communications position has been on my radar for a couple of years. Hasn't made the cut budget-wise as of yet, but definitely a checklist type scenario where, which we have some of that kind of stuff built into our emergency plan for other situations. We can build something like that too, that it's a quick checkbox to make sure that all the key points are hit for sure.
Well, I know something like this doesn't happen at 9:05 when you come into work, so it's like 8:20 on a Wednesday night. The only avenue you had was social media, which is unfortunately sometimes not the best way. I don't hear about some things until a couple of days later, but the water in your system was still good when that was sent out anyway, so just realize that. So okay, thank you very much.
Okay. No, don't press, no. Don't, I think I gotta, so are they getting Councillor Heislip without my motion or whatever, like the second part of that, that's all working out?
You good with tech people? We good on the tech side? Yeah, we're good.
Okay, all right, good, no. Okay, so Deputy Mayor Wheaton is up next.
Okay, you mentioned going for the public transit symposium. When I came on council in 2016, there was a transportation committee, and it was for all of Southwest New Brunswick, and they worked very, very hard, and a lot of information came forth, and there's actually really a big need in our region for, most of the times we don't even have a taxi, right? So was there any mention of that particular committee that was?
Yes. So, I'm struggling with his title. Perhaps I think it was the former mayor of St. Andrews was on there. He actually spoke at the symposium about rural links, and as did the CEO for Maritime Bus, and they from different perspectives, but talked about the rural links pilot project and how that worked and didn't work, and the need to take for a fresh look about what was learnt there and how to proceed. So yeah, that was they presented. Eastern Charlotte Waterways presented with the Project Village cars. Dial-A-Ride was their parent corporation was also in attendance, talking about their services and what they do. And I think the solution down here is going to be some combination of tools all coming together strategically to make things work. And I think that's going to be something, I'm hoping that's something that the RSC and Mr. Funk at the RSC are going to be able to spearhead to re-energize the discussions around public transit in this part of the province.
Because I see it as an enormous need for this region, right? Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
I have a quick comment. I just
Yeah.
want to thank the town staff as well for when I had some notifications of people not knowing how to be notified. You also put out a post and sent out some emails on how to exactly register. So I thought that was really helpful because a lot of people weren't sure how to navigate the website or to actually figure out how to be notified. So just putting that out there, that's really effective too, because we can't always assume that people know how to navigate a website and sign up for notifications. So just putting that out there. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, I'll add to that as well. As all of us, we probably get lots of calls over the boil order, and one thing I feel that maybe we left out is we should have told you to tell your neighbor, because not everyone's on the electronic world. So, knock on their door, call their landline. Like for me, for example, when I got the call from Jeff first, and then the notice went out to the public 5 minutes after that. I was messaging people and letting people know in my circles. So we do have that part to play as well. I know there was talk about, and I don't want to beat this to death, but I do want to share. They're saying, why didn't we go to every door? We do that in when we have small breaks in like 1 or 2 blocks. But that wasn't perfect either. I got calls that someone found that door hanger because we knocked on the door, there was no one home, and they found the door hanger. It was a friend of mine got the door hanger, and they've been drinking the water for 3 days, and they're just seeing it. So that wasn't perfect either. So it's really important that we all help our neighbors out as well, because it could be serious, So we got to do our part there as well. And of course, there's always room for improvement, but I think we're really bad. We get so many avenues of putting notices out, but the public itself, and me included, are really bad at receiving it. I don't know how we're missing it, but I've seen me miss events right here in the Civic Center that I wish I was at, that after I see the pictures of after the fact, and I missed it. And I'm in here a lot, so I can't imagine some people are missing that stuff. So I don't know how the algorithms and the computer world works, but I don't think it's perfect. So anyways, again, the biggest thing is call your neighbors. There's going to be some seniors around that just have a landline. Anyway, so like I said, we won't beat that to death, but I think we all have a part to play. And that's it for me. And we will, any more questions? Okay, I'll have all those in favor for this. Or actually, no. Yeah, okay, let's do it. For the CAO report, sorry. Any opposed? Motion carried. So Jeff, we have question period now? Before okay. All right. Any questions or comments from the public?
I hate to flog it, but I just wanted to express my disappointment in how we've handled 3 things. The amalgamation, I know, was foisted on us, and that will be addressed in the next provincial election, most likely. It probably won't change, but it will be addressed. But I think that when you're dealing with joining sections together, we have to put egos aside, and we have to be prepared for some angry words and emotion, because everyone has a different vested interest. What we should be doing is looking at consensus. And consensus simply means at the end of the day, everyone can at least live with the decision. And I don't get the sense that there was consensus in the Oak Bay Fire Hall situation. And what we had was almost like a hostile takeover. We took what we wanted, the equipment predominantly, and we let the people that vested all kinds of interest and passion into building that fire department fall by the wayside. And so now we still have the Oak Bay Fire Department. It's going to be called Station Number 2. I'm not sure if I like that name. But what we don't have necessarily are people who are trained for rural fires. You've got to be able to draft and shuttle water, because we don't have hydrants in the rural area. And it might take a while to get those people, so then my home is in jeopardy, because I will have to wait for the St. Stephen people to get there. That's
So-
one thing.
Okay, for first of all, your first part about amalgamation, there has been many, not enough discussions, even at the Oak Bay Hall for the amalgamation. I'm not talking fire hall. Yeah, so I mean, they did that for over a year. And so if you attended there, then you could voice your concerns. But again, they still went through with their amalgamation, which we did. As far as the fire service, it's not quite what you think. It is covered. There is staff there, and it is covered. And as our CAO mentioned the first of the meeting tonight in his report, they've been working with the fire marshal and the fire chief and making sure that everything's there. And it's not being done from St. Stephen, it's done from the Oak Bay or Station 2 or whatever we're going to call that. But yeah, okay, so that's on that.
Because I'm reminded that the democracy is of the people, by the people, for the people. And part of that, for me, is committees. And if we get rid of the committees, yes, you're going to have ad hoc committees, but every committee you have can have specific guidelines and deadlines. And the majority of the town communities in the province do have committees. So I have to wonder how basic decisions get made if there's no big discussion. So that concerns me, because communications is a big issue. And that slides into the boil water order. And you made a comment about social media. Not everybody is plugged in. And it doesn't matter how old you are, at least every house seems to have a landline or a cell phone. But I know if there's an abduction in the province, boy, it's on my TV like crazy. And there's my phone's going off and everything. So I'm disappointed that there wasn't a kind of futuristic look and there was not better planning to inform people. I have people who are friends in the St. Stephen proper who are dealing with cancer issues, and they had no idea there was a boil water order. And that can't be healthy. So we have to think outside the box and think ahead.
And we agree with you on that, as we said this evening. We know there's always room for improvement on that, by the way. And it isn't perfect, but we'll definitely work to make it better. And your question on committees, we're not doing the work. It's just going to be labeled differently and done through ad hoc. Our committees system that we started out with, it was too much for, we just didn't have the staff to keep it up, and it was just, the staff spinning our wheels. Councilors were in here every day, and it was just a lot. So, but
You sign on for when you run for public
yeah,
office.
but you're not getting any action done. We weren't getting anything done. We're still going to do the work. It's just not going to be that way. We're going to do it through. Anyway, there's still going to be a meeting about it. Anyway.
I can speak to that too a little bit. Something I will say as a new counselor starting the committee, something that I found really unfortunate was we were coming together on separate committees, and because you don't have enough time in the week to attend every single committee and run your own committees, I was missing information from different committees that I feel I would have benefited from. So what we did actually, March 21st, we had a committee of the whole meeting, which we will call it sometimes for more educational training purposes, where we had a community developer from Horizon Health come in and talk about trauma and how that impacts homelessness and addiction and things, to kind of give the entire committee just a ground level understanding of the root of that issue, so that we can kind of build on that as a council. And I thought that was really helpful to all sit at the same table and understand and kind of take all that information. Now, I was running the social inclusion committee, and that speaker probably would have only come to my committee previously and would have only spoken to 2 or 3 counselors. So this way we were all able to take in that information. So I will say I'm actually very happy about that change, because as a counselor who's working full time with a family at home, and you just naturally can't make every single meeting. So I would say for the general public, I think it will actually be much more effective now that we're actually meeting all together as council in committee of the whole. And then if we have a specific issue that's arisen, like the boil order issues and communication, we can just tackle that issue head on, ad hoc, as a full council or specific member. So just giving you that different perspective, just to understand, you know, as a counselor, how.
I will track.
Yeah.
I will be here every meeting,
Oh,
and
so-
I will
yeah.
track.
So speaking of being here at every meeting, that was the other issue. We were having 8 meetings, and there was no public showing up. And the public wouldn't get to see the debate going on, because, well, there's 8 meetings. Like, it just wasn't, people weren't showing up. They didn't know that they're really a council meeting, right? Yeah. Yeah, but that's a lot. That's a lot for the public to try to get to 8 meetings as well, right? But anyway, the opportunity will still exist anyway.
I can give a little history of that. I was on since 2016 on the past council, and we did have committees then. There were six councillors, and we actually had a consultant come in and advise us that committees sometimes don't work, and he didn't feel that they worked in this case, and we did committee of the whole, which we all got together and discussed all the committees, so we were all informed at the same time. This other committee one, we had 8 committees, with me being a chairperson on one and on 2 other committees, and I was at 7 meetings the first week. And I found that even in my committee meeting that somebody would come to ask something about heritage, subcommittee I was on, heritage, but it also involved finance, which everything comes back to finance. So instead of getting a decision in 1 month, we had to go and send from my committee to the finance committee the next month that they met, because they already met before us, and then it had to go to council the next month. So you're 3 months making a decision on something for an application for a natural historic site that you'll see on the agenda tonight. So it was getting a little bit cumbersome, and then we come in here and rubber stamped everything quickly, and the public might not have had any input on it because nobody attended those meetings, as the mayor said. So I think this will work. It worked quite well in the past, and I think it'll work quite well here.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
I used to be on the committee in Dufferin.
Mhm.
We still call it the Lake. And I worked with Councilor Greenlaw. 3 separate times I asked for the speed machine at the Ledge Road. And every LSD in this service commission put money towards that machine. I even offered to go cut the bushes. I offered to go tow it. Oh, you don't have enough liability insurance. We have a speeding problem on the Ledge Road. We have a deer problem. I look after that because I eat them. But when you look in the rear view mirror and all you see is brown, the speed limit is 60, not 80, 90. And all I'm asking, I know Ticket Teed's gone, but by jump, nobody speeded on the Ledge Road when Ticket Teed was on. And all I'm asking is to set up the radar. I used to be an ex-member, and I could pay for Mounties pay. And the people in the LSD in Dufferin pay $85,000 or $90,000 a year for police protection. We want to see some.
You're talking about the trailer machine we set up? Yeah. So who did you request that through?
The Rural Service Committee, Councilor Greenlaw.
Okay.
by different groups, but all, I,
The
Well, I'll reaffirm the request and do that tomorrow.
As a computer, you don't have to have people complain. The computer tells you what people are doing. Thank you very much.
I can't understand why you wouldn't have got the machine there, but anyway, yeah.
You see it in town.
Well, I haven't seen it in town neither lately, but anyway, yeah. Anyway, it should have. You should have got it. Yeah. Anyway, so you're represented by this district here now, so we can make sure you can get that machine. Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. Go ahead.
I was wondering about the fire service. Is there any kind of timeline laid out in terms of when we're going to get the fire insurance underwriting done? Because I understand that you really have to staff up quite a bit in order to get to that level 1, which, if we just are sort of basing it on how long it takes to recruit, what does that mean for us if we're still staying at a rating that maybe we actually can't meet just because they're giving us some grace period to actually staff up and meet the requirements?
So that was taken care of. Do one of you two want to speak to that? Because that was taken care of.
Well, what council wants is the target rating for FUS. I mean, will you present that to committee of the whole? Because there's a number of criteria for a host of ratings. Some will be, even the folks we talked to the other day, is that if we try to improve at this point from where we are today, the investment that our community would have to make would be very, very significant. Their recommendations at this point is make sure that you can maintain where you are, which is what we're doing. But we'll happily present the criteria to council and have a discussion around level of service, because that's what you guys are here to do, is tell us what you want, and we'll tell you what it takes to get there. But it's a good conversation to have.
My question would be: we do have the same level of service though right now? Whatever the level, that hasn't changed. Okay.
Things have not changed.
Well, we have a new fire truck, and that probably helps with this rating. Because even equipment age and wear is increases our rating if we get new, right? So. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I still feel confused about exactly what's going on, and I'm not sure. Is there some meeting or meeting minutes that I've missed along the way? So the last time we were here, we had a document that outlined 2 options. I'm wondering, was there a decision on those 2 options that were put forward? What's the exact status of where we're heading? Are we closing Oak Bay? Are we keeping Oak Bay? If we have to have 15 firefighters that are rated at a certain level in order to keep the rating that we have right now, is that 15 firefighters within the municipal town of St. Stephen, or is that for Oak Bay? Keeping in mind that I live out in the rural area, so I'm very concerned about that part of it. So if we don't have all the answers, or if it's documented somewhere, it would be great to see that. But I feel like there's been all these things that have happened that as a resident, I don't know what's gone on. I don't even know really what the status is, where you're heading, what the timelines are, again, what the budget's gonna be. And when we talk about, that fellow was mentioning the service levels. Are the service levels part of the rating? Or what is all involved in the underwriting process? So then I know, yes, my insurance rates are gonna go up. Like, there's so many questions. Where are the answers?
Well, some of that stuff's been put out. Again, I'm gonna refer to one of these two because they've been doing the work, so.
Yeah, as far as the fire underwriting survey part, as I said in my report, we had a Zoom call with them yesterday. So there hasn't been a lot of time to formulate what we talked about into anything that would be produced for council's knowledge, other than the short email that I sent you guys yesterday after the meeting, to bolster that into a full-blown document, which is why I say, like, I think the best approach is for that element to come to committee of the whole and educate council and educate the public on what is all involved, what we have in place now, and what our goals are. And part of that will be council eventually having to make a decision about, is the goal for our fire service, both Station 1, Station 2, however you want to call them, to be a level 4, a level 3, a level 2, a level 1. And each one of those comes with a big price tag if you want to go up the ranking. And so basically there'll have to be a conversation between what do we plan on putting in to reserves and things like that to finance trucks, full-time members, all that fun stuff to achieve that, or do we or is the level of service going to be slightly lower than the highest level in order to balance the cost versus the benefit? There's a lot to take in. We got a crash course on it literally yesterday afternoon from the Fire Underwriters Survey folks. And like I said, we should do that at Community Whole for your benefit and knowledge as well as the public.
Go ahead, sir.
There's a number of things that I've been following the fire service forever. I've been an advocate for a lot of things and the changes and different things like that. And this young lady over here, I'm not quite sure where you're getting all your information from, because on your insurance policy in the rural area, it asks you if you're within 5 kilometers of an active fire service. If you're there, you get your discount. It does not ask you what level it is or anything else. It just asks you your level, or if you're within that area. Communication, as you can see from the lady this fine lady behind me, she was all upset because of communication. I am also, because my little disappointment is that you guys waited so long to put out a rebuttal. I would have liked to seen that a while ago, because there's been comments put to the press, letters sent to the press, that, and you know as well as I know, you guys just won't say it, but I will. 90% of that is bogus crap. It's fear-mongering, and it's setting up so many people in my little area down there in Oak Bay, and everybody's scared. And this lady's she just nailed it. What if, what if, what if? So I know the fire service isn't gonna go away. It's too big of an area. It needs some restructuring, and I got faith in you guys to sit back and figure this out. I'm all for it, because we have no choice. We have to move forward. So we are gonna move forward. So finally, you guys waited so long to put out your little rebuttal. I read it, and I was very impressed with it. I thought it was very nice, and it basically is what it said was, please stand by. We are working on it. You are covered. We were covered from day one, and I have all the faith in the world that the town of St. Stephen and these gentlemen in the fire hall not gonna leave me hanging. If anything, they're gonna be faster getting to my house with it burning. I live around the corner of the firehouse. So I know, because I've worked with them. I was a level 2 firefighter in Oak Bay for 22 years. I know it, and I have no problem, and I hope the public understands that just because 1 or 2 ruffled feathers had a crybaby fit, and I don't mind saying it, they're not there now. Now the fire hall will get rebuilt, and it will be built better. I guarantee it, and I stand my name on it. So just don't let it go so long if you can. I know we talked about communication, we're working on it, da-da-da-da-da. That's my only thing. I know you guys are working your butts off, and I'll do what I can to help you out, but we gotta, what do you call it? I can't think of the word. Just gotta stamp out this fear-mongering, because it's scaring too many good people. It really is. So I didn't want to say anything this time, but I did anyway, so said my...
Okay. Thank you, sir. Does I see a hand back there? Hi. Oh, hi.
Sturson from Home Support Services, and at Home Support since last July we've been experiencing quite a bit of trouble with our caregivers, with certain people in the community, and the safety of our staff it's getting worse, and I know that the town can't solve it by themselves. I know we have to sit down with a lot of other people to help solve the problem. But if people don't know and don't understand what the problems are out there, we're not going to be able to sit at the table to solve them. And my board of directors, I'm meeting with them tomorrow night, and I know they're going to want an answer as to how we're going to start to rebuild the safety issues within our town. And I know I'm not the only one. I know there's a lot of people and I'm not even downtown. I'm up at the traffic circle. We're sort of out of the area, but between the break-in in July and the Rushton Street chaos, and a caregiver getting beaten up at a client's home, and then most recently, a scare at the home support building with, we go in, we prepare Meals on Wheels, and we're in there at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then we got a nice young girl in there cooking on the weekends, and she was terrified. And we just need to, we need to address it, because like I said, I'm not the only one. But my 80 staff in Charlotte County, they mean something to me. And they mean something to a lot of our clients in the community. They mean something to my board. And I just want to know how we're going to address the problem, and how, you know, I understand that on that Sunday that it didn't meet criteria, but no one called her to tell her that no one was coming to help her. So that's a huge issue. You know, if somebody's waiting for the police to show up because they're afraid that, you know, there's somebody there, but nobody calls her to tell her that, oh, by the way, you don't meet criteria, so we're not coming. You know, I would have gone over and sat with her and stayed with her. I would have sent my husband over with a baseball bat. He's got it ready.
You don't need a bat, but your husband does.
Oh. I don't know. He probably wouldn't have let me go alone. I'm just saying. But, you know, but I just, we need to start sitting at the table, have all the parties there. I know that it's a big deal for the town right now, and I know there's a lot of people complaining and a lot of councillors getting complaints, but we need to sort of sit at the table and try and figure out how to solve the problem. It's revolving mental health, social development, policing, you know, and people just even doing their own thing. We put in lights and everything to deter in our own home. We're well lit up at home support, but we put bars on the windows. We've done, you know, people have to help themselves, but we also need to get things better in the community. And I think we need to all sort of sit at the table. Maybe not me personally, because but you know what I mean, but get all the parties sitting at the table. Maybe we need to change some of the criminal code. You need to get somebody from the feds here to help with that. I know a lot of times the RCMP's hands are tied because the criminal code doesn't address the situations. Or, you know, so there's a lot of, you know, public safety maybe can do a lot of help here with the province and get Kathy Bacchus to get public safety at the table too. Mental health, social development, like everybody, if everybody comes and takes a seat, maybe we can get something solved. But the way things are going now, it's getting worse every day. So I just want to address my concerns, and I'm hoping I can take something back to my board for tomorrow night to make them feel like there's something that's going to happen to start.
So, yeah, so thanks for those comments. And you're speaking to a room that we're all living here. We're all dealing with it. Every member around this board table as well, and we feel it. And if we changed our lifestyles to adapt to it, we have. So no, I totally understand, and I think we got a long road ahead of us. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a growing concern. I know you've heard me say this before. It's not just here. It's everywhere. You see the same issue. I just read the council minutes for another community dealing with it. But there is work being done. Although we got to. It's more than just reactive with our policing too. We got to deal with the issue here to prevent the people from getting to the point that they're doing those things. So there's so many variables at play that we are working on. And I mean, I've had meetings with these two gentlemen regionally, like all the mayors in the Charlotte County are sitting around the table with them and discussing issues and what we can do to improve it and things as such. Want to say anything? Yeah. Just 1 second, Councilor Harding. Just 1 second. Go ahead, Scott. Sergeant Scott.
Oh, hi, Scott. I was speaking to you on Friday. Yes, you were. You spent a lovely half an hour talking to me. You did. I very much appreciated your time.
And I'd be more than happy to meet with your board tomorrow night if you would like.
That would be awesome.
What time?
4:30.
Better.
If that's okay with you. If that's okay with you, that would be awesome.
So those who don't know me, I'm Scott McKenzie. I'm the sergeant downtown here in St. Stephen. So I'm responsible for RSC 10 West, which encompasses McAdam, St. Stephen, Campbell. I've been policing in Charlotte County for a very long time. My whole career has been spent down here. So very knowledgeable as to what goes on in Charlotte County, and I've seen the changes. Great discussion we had the other day.
Yes.
Looking into your concerns.
I sent it up to J Division, but it's just because I've been writing lots of letters this
Oh,
week.
no worries at all, no worries at all.
Just
And,
with a couple of recommendations, just saying.
Yeah, no, and I will certainly follow
Yeah.
up on the concerns that you have. And I would extend it to any member of the public that we're where we always were, 16 Hawthorne Street. If there's any concerns or questions, certainly come in and see me. If members of the public have a concern or a question in regards to a particular file that they are involved in, and they don't feel that they're being served, then there's always a supervisor. Someone always has a supervisor, so feel free to reach out to that person's supervisor. If it's a constable, look to speak to their corporal. If it's a corporal, look to speak to the sergeant, and then if you have an issue with me, then you talk to the inspector. And with me, just to introduce as well, is Inspector Martin Soloney, who's the officer in charge of operations for the West District. But yeah, so our door is always open, and I certainly welcome anyone coming in.
Conversation.
Yes, 100%, because if we don't know that there's an issue or we don't hear about it, it's hard for us to make a change. We are very well aware of the changes that are happening within the municipality over the last year especially. And we are working diligently to address those issues and lay charges when the evidence is there and supported.
Okay.
As for example, 2 days ago with our
Yeah.
arson downtown.
Yeah.
And just to speak to that, like we, as you may have seen in the press release, we identified a suspect. The gentleman was arrested by mid-morning and been charged that day and is currently remanded in custody until Monday, until a further court session on Monday. So good work by our officers and everyone involved. So.
Yeah, and I understand too from Constable Delano,
Yeah,
Delano, he, that there is going to be an arrest for a theft, well, not for the theft part, but for the fraud part.
Well, I can't speak to
Yes,
individual
I'm just saying,
matters, but
my board is very happy about that.
yes, so investigations are very.
Yeah. And that was like last July, and it's just coming around now. But
They're
there's
not-
a
they're
lot
not
of,
easy, yeah.
they don't happen overnight, and I understood
No.
that, and he explained that to me. However, you know, the physical harm aspect of things is more so what my concern is.
100%.
And I know there was an arrest when our caregiver was injured. I don't have much faith that the person charged is gonna show up. Because she already had a warrant for an arrest for not showing up, so, you know,
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's, you know, there's.
And as you
yeah.
understand, that's what the courts.
Yeah,
that is
that's what the
completely-
courts, I
that's
mean, even
completely
the
out of our
judicial system is broken, right? I mean, it's like a lot of levels that need to be changed, but we need to start somewhere, and I don't know where that beginning is, but there has to be some discussion and some changes starting somewhere.
And
Anyways,
All right, so
Yeah.
I guess you guys take that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your
So
Honor.
thank you for speaking. Councilor Harding, just one second. Councilor Harding, you still want to speak? Yes.
I want to address this issue because since 2004, as Scott can tell you, I've been on this drug wagon, trying to get the drugs out of this town. But now it's getting worse every day. I had 16 calls in the last 2 days about the drug situation in town. I agree with Candace that we should set everybody at the table. John Williamson, Kathy Bacchus, you, Jeff Renault, anybody who, you, Ghislaine, anybody who has an interest in this, we should set them all at the table. I feel sorry for the RCMP. I really do, because my God, you pick these people up, you take them to court, the judge said, well, you go. So anyway, I feel sorry for them. And I think that they do a good job, but they can't be everywhere at once. I had someone in my house last night that took out her phone and showed me a picture of 2 police cars being in a certain place at a certain time and said, look, this is what this community is coming to. So people are fed up. They're sick, sore, and tired of what's going on. I don't know what the answer is. I have no idea. But I am, like I told you, Your Worship, not too long ago, I am going to be a one-issue counselor for this term on the drug situation.
No, and like I said, any movement forward is a help. I mean, we got to do our part. Like I say, it's going to take a community effort.
Just on this very quickly.
I live on King Street and I have a business downtown. Our home has been attempted break in the last month. We've had at least 3, so it's now not, you know, shaking the door. My son has walked out our back step, and there was someone who was strung out on drugs hanging over our railing on our back deck, didn't know where he was, what was going on, and my husband escorted him to the end of the driveway. And so it's definitely something that we've adapted to. We're lit up like the 4th of July. The cameras are outside. We have had someone else who was strung out who ran into the end of our driveway screaming and hollering and scared my son who was playing hockey. So now he doesn't want to go outside unless we're in the window, you know, giving him the thumbs up so we know somebody's watching him. And I know that we have to adapt to that, just like I have to make sure that the cameras and everything are on down at the store and that our $10,000 heat pump we just put in is locked up. I know all of that, and that's my job to do, to be diligent in doing that. My problem is that we've had a lot of those issues stemmed and have been taking place just recently, and we've had a real hard time. It's really hard as a homeowner and a taxpayer and, you know, doing all the things and being a parent to get online and see the things that are advertising. Like we've had, hands down, I don't even want to say it because I'm happy that we have it, but all of our issues have started since the warming shelter was put in because of the location, because I'm so close to it. I'm very close to it, so that is why. My problem is that when I did have a problem, I just wanted to talk to the source. I didn't want to turn it into anything. I just said, okay, listen, we had this person, he's draped over my steps. Who do I call if I have an issue? I'm not going to call 911. Obviously, that's a little ridiculous. So I need to know the number to call, like
466-7030.
Right. So and we've been able to share. I've been able to share that so that people know, because I walked out my back door at work and someone was defecating in the middle of the parking lot. Like that's. And then that's not a 911 call. So who do I call to just say, hey, listen? And I know that calls, I'm assuming calls equal reports, equal more data, which is what we need, right? So that's what I'm trying to do. My problem is if I do have an issue, I was told to reach out to Neighborhood Works if I had an issue with the homeless shelter. I reached out to, and I'm only saying this because I don't have the answers. I reached out to them and they said it wasn't their issue. So my problem is I'm okay with doing my part and just making the calls and keeping track of the stuff that's happening because it's going to happen. But who is it that I call aside from that? So, and I don't know, maybe there's a counselor that even can answer that. I'm not sure.
Just one second. I do want to talk about the call. Like, if you feel you need to call 911, please call 911 though, right? No, because that other number might take an hour or so before someone gets back into you because they won't put precedent on it. Oop. Yeah, so I just want to make sure. Yeah.
That also, just before you speak, because I just forgot one thing. The other thing is we've had, well, we're bringing the market at the store upstairs because of theft. So we had, in our store, we had a lower level. Too many things were getting stolen, so we moved them upstairs. Again, we're adapting. That's what we're doing. We're trying to make the best of what we have, and we don't want to see it go away. We want to see it continue, so how can we make it work? So that's what we're doing. We're bringing it all upstairs. Okay, great. Check mark. It's easy to access. There was other benefits to it, so that's fine. But we've also had visitors that have come in, and they're taking nothing more than a pamphlet and fluffing up some merchandise on the shelves, or maybe taking some samples, or so nothing that's costing me necessarily, not necessarily doing anything wrong, but those are the same ones when we do call, they're harmless, they're harmless, they're harmless, they're harmless. Those same ones that were harmless are the ones that potentially burnt the boat. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do and who I'm supposed to call, I guess, is just where I'm at. The other part of that is out of sight, out of mind. If people don't know that's happening and they don't see it, then they don't understand that it's a problem. So unless you're living in it, like, joke is, I didn't know what retail was like until I started doing it. I have a whole new appreciation for anyone who's ever worked in retail, so I get it. It's the same concept. You just don't know about it until you're living it, and it's escalating so fast, and it feels like we tried to be so quick and so proactive with some things that we kind of forgot about what was going to happen on the long-term bigger picture. And that's where I'm at. I want to be able to, I've invested in this town. I went to school, I came back, I've done all the things. My husband has a business in town. That's what we're here for. But if my kid can't even play hockey in the driveway, something is wrong. So that's where I'm at. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just knew I was going to forget.
I'll speak to a little bit of this too. Your worship, like you said, we are all citizens, so it does make it super challenging. I live on Union Street. I'm a big supporter, of, obviously everyone knows, of supporting the Unsheltered Committee. I'm also drug issues. I'm same with Councillor Harding. Like, I'm there too. I think we have a huge issue with access to drugs in this community. I think we need to remember we're in a time where you could pretty much order just about anything online. When I speak with people with lived experience, I think 20, 30 years ago, you had to rely on a person to deliver something to your community. Now things are quite accessible and can be packaged and delivered. So it's a greater issue. It is beyond us, and we need to acknowledge that piece. I will say that one thing I think we need to absolutely remember is sometimes when we find ourselves in a bit of a crisis. I think we're not in downtown Vancouver, we're in rural New Brunswick, so we've never dealt with this. And sometimes in a crisis it can become quite emotional and everyone panics and we start to blame. Like, the RCMP isn't doing anything. Look at the warming center, that's what's caused it. Maybe it's those parents, the way they raise their kids, and we start to kind of all blame each other. Something I would really like to see is maybe, for instance, I know you're affiliated with the Chamber. Like, I'd love to sit with the Chamber. I also would love someone from the Chamber to come sit on the Unsheltered Committee and kind of hear, similar to like we're all kind of working in silos here and we're not really 100% aware. When somebody's wandering through my yard 2 nights ago on my cameras rattling all my doors, I also have the same feelings about the RCMP. I'm like, if I call them, they can't do anything about that, and it's frustrating. However, even the RCMP, it needs to be an actual charge they can lay. They can't just necessarily kind of deal with the things that we're seeing in terms of mental health crises and psychosis and things like that. Neighborhood Works, I mean, that it's challenging, I think, for an organization. They're in a unique position in the sense that, if somebody's a client of social development and they walk out on the street and they're start screaming and harassing people, individuals don't call social development and say, your client's out on the street harassing someone, right? I think there's a misperception that they have control over their client's behavior when they exit. So I think when they're in the warming center and there's issues, it's effective. They can deal with those issues effectively when somebody is at a community dinner. But when a citizen is on the street, I think we just need to just be leery of that. Like, I work at Sophia Recovery Center, and if one of my clients engage in criminal behavior, I would hope somebody wouldn't call me up and say, Emily, what's going on there? And I think it really comes down to more collaboration and communication. I'm happy to sit with the Chamber. I'd love you to come to the Unsheltered Committee. I'd love to sit with the RCMP. I'd love for Councillor Harding and I also have been kind of coming together on the same page. Like, none of us are really enjoying what's going on, but we are in a bit of a crisis and we need to just pause and breathe and work it out step by step.
I'm speaking only on behalf of myself, not the Chamber. I need to make that clear. I am involved with them, but definitely not speaking on behalf of. I am speaking because I live on King Street. that is why.
And that's the same, Candace, with home support. Like, and I think it comes to developing policies as well. Like, really reinforce those policies with your board around.
We do. We have
them.
We have them in place.
But I guess we only have control over certain aspects.
We only have control over our own little house.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's a conversation we will have for months and years to come. So
I need it to be, like, I'm not responding, I'm not saying this because I haven't taken a moment to think about it or that I'm reacting emotionally. I'm reacting because we can't, it's one of those things where you do let things snowball too far out of control, and then what could be a small problem turns into a gigantic problem. And I know we're going to we are dealing with it. That's it's a reality. I'm not disputing that. I just want to make sure that I have the right resources, just like they have the right resources to deal with, so that my kid can play in the yard and I don't have to feel like I have to bar up my windows at the store. Do you know what I mean? I get that it's a problem, and I get that we need all those things. I just think we need to also realize that there were resources, or maybe should have been other resources in place before we jumped the gun. So I'm not blaming anyone specifically. I'm only stating actual facts that have happened to me in correlation to other factual things that have happened and on a timeline and the dates in which they happened. That is all. So as long as we have, even just having that phone number that other people know, like I passed it on to other, my neighbors, because it was like, oh geez, I've seen so-and-so do whatever out back. I'm not calling 911 for that, and you're going, no, you don't have to, but.
Please call.
Yeah, so I think that's
The
important.
more calls we have, again, it directs us, and I'll just, if I could say, I hear the public's frustration. And I think,
Right.
I think I coached one of.
Oh,
Yes.
you did,
Over the years,
you
yeah.
did.
So, I've been around a long time. So part of my routine, part of my daily job
Yeah.
is, every morning I review the files.
Right.
From the night before. Every Monday morning, I go through the files from the weekend. I see what's happening. I hear what the community is talking about. My wife works here in St. Steve. So we hear it. Our officers are as frustrated, not as frustrated as the community, but we are frustrated as well because we want to be able to make a difference.
Right.
We are laying the charges when we can, when the evidence isn't, someone goes through someone's backyard and they're rattling doors, and if they're on cameras, hopefully we can identify them. That's a lot of times what it comes down to, we just can't identify that person. So the more calls we get, please, never, I've had, and then Mark, over the years, we've had conversations, and we say, oh, I just don't want to bother them. You're not bothering us. The more calls we get, the better, because it goes towards our stats, and it helps us direct us to an area as well. So unfortunately, sometimes it does take a while. If you call the administration lines, sometimes it can take a while to get through, unfortunately. But please call. And because if our officers are out, sometimes you may get through really quickly. And say, yeah, there's so-and-so, there's someone there's milling around. And you never know, like, as you live on King Street, our guys, that's one of our main drags coming in and out of town. So down King Street, we either go down the front street or we cut off Union Street. So we're up and down King all the time, Union all the time. So we are in this area just because of our normal travel, like going out by the fire hall and stuff. So.
But can you elaborate on, like, do you have officers that are on foot? I work at Sweeney International.
Okay. Yeah.
And obviously we've had a
Yep.
not so productive week.
Yep.
And we've bantered back and forth on how this happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
And really the matter of fact is that everyone in this room is probably next, because I feel like they just keep going. But I never see an RCMP officer walking the trail or walking the street. I always see them in cars. And when I think back to when I was 17, I can still hear Bootsy practically kicking my ass up the street home and saying, you're out way past where you should be. And I know I'm not saying that, the RCMP aren't doing their job. I appreciate every single thing you guys have done. But I feel like we need people on the street because they are going outdoors and handles, and if they know that you're not walking. Do you know what I mean? Do you see my point?
Yeah, Foot Patrol has a place. It certainly does.
But where are they? Because I'm not seeing them.
And that's something I can certainly promote with the officers.
I think it would be reassuring. I think I can't be the only one that is wondering this.
And in years past when the tavern was over here and stuff, we were on foot all the time.
Oh, I know that, but I just feel like I can say, I don't remember the last time that I saw an RCMP officer walking, patrolling by foot, I guess. And obviously I don't look for it either, but given
it might be a different time of the night too.
The intensity of what's been going on in our world, I have to say
and trust me, like the guy, because of the activity, and we know that there's people, milling around at night. Our officers do spend a lot of time when they're not on other calls in and around the downtown core, because of just they know that people are, they know what's going on. So it's but I certainly can talk to the team leaders and suggest that if they have some downtime, let's do some targeted.
At the end of the day, I think we don't want to measure success based on the amount of charge that we're laying, right? I mean, for us, if you report something to our retention, we will intervene. It could be a matter of a proper referral, so for that person to get the help that he deserves, right? So that, in my opinion, it's already a start of a success for to rehabilitate a person in the right direction. Education is key, prevention is key, but essentially it's tough to measure, right? It's like you can try to bring 10, 20, 100 people in the right direction, you may save one, but that's one success out of how many people we're trying to save and put back in the right direction. So, I mean, I know you said it earlier, like something like, is it something the police can do? Don't hesitate, that's my point, I guess. Don't start judging, is that criminal enough to call the police? Just report it, right? Okay?
What is that phone number again?
46, well, nowadays it's 506,
Yeah.
466 7030. And it's online. If you Google St. Stephen RCMP, you're bound to find it. So.
Okay.
It's even in the old-fashioned phone book.
Oh, yeah.
Just one second.
hang out for a while.
Okay, go ahead.
This is directed to Sergeant. So everyone in this town knows that there's a lack of police presence at certain hours. Is there nothing that can be done to split a shift so that we have some coverage in those hours where there's no presence?
Well, there is presence, but there's officers that are on call for a particular
But
period of time.
they can't be there immediately.
Certainly something we could look at. It is resource
You know,
heavy.
Split an afternoon shift into that lax hours and move some of your staff to cover the other half of that lax time.
What I can add to that is the peak hours, the peak demand for the RC10, like St. Stephen included, it's really between 3 p.m. till 9, 10 p.m. That's really the biggest ballpark of calls for service we're receiving throughout the year and any time of the year. Like June, July, and August being the busiest month, obviously. That's when people are getting out and it's nice, the weather's nice, right? So, but to your point, it's not impossible to make some adjustment to occasionally to try to cover those gaps that as you're aware of.
Well, everyone's aware.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's no secret. Like, I mean, but yeah, essentially, like with the resource allocation, it's mainly focused to tackle the ballpark of the work, and there's always officers to deal, obviously, after hours. Yes, we are on calls, no secrets, and yes, the response can vary depending on where the call is as well. So it's the reality.
Can I ask you a
Absolutely.
question?
Be able to answer. I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this, but I'm going to put it out there. If there are 30 clients accessing that warming center every night and it closed tomorrow permanently, do you feel that the crime would increase in this community? Just a quick yes or no.
All right.
Just a point to throw out there.
We could have a meeting just on policing, but I do want everyone to know it's not good to hear this stuff, but we need to hear it. But all the leaders that are sitting down and having police meetings are sharing those exact same concerns, saying the exact same things that we're hearing here tonight. It just further enforces it, and it helps support us, give us more strength, and they maybe the government will listen to us more. But that's all we can hope for, because like I said, we get a long road ahead of us. I'm sitting here tonight and my little alarm's going off, vehicle in my driveway, and I'm thinking I didn't look at it, but that's the lifestyle. Anyway, we've adjusted, which is a shame, because there used to be a day we never locked the door. Now I can't go out in my door yard, come back, and my wife's locked my door before I get back, and I'm just went next door. I mean, that's where we live. Anyway, all right, let's move on. Thank you, everyone. Tough stuff. Oh.
Hi. The warming center was initially set up for $10,000 to open up for coffee and just as a warming center. That evolved into much more than that, and it was also put on the radio, and I've heard the advertisements. The warming center is welcoming people, blah, blah, blah. So we've taken in more people from Moncton and Fredericton and stuff. So our population has actually increased for that shelter. Have we looked at how much money has actually been spent on the shelter? How much money has actually the town put out to fix things such as the busted door, windows, etc.? Who's going to be cleaning up all the needles and stuff that are around town? that kids are walking by when they're going from daycare to daycare? And will the shelter be closing permanently on April 1st when it's good weather?
Works and ask those questions.
And it just also, the funding's also coming from the province as well, right? So we can't pick and choose who's going to be staying there. And we've all had those concerns and calls about they're not locals, but they're still unsheltered. And does that draw them here? Some, but I've heard those numbers aren't as big as we think. Like, they're mostly local people in there, in those shelters.
But they're local people. The family should be helping out at some point, but they've also, from what I understand, a couple that I've actually talked to, the parents, they don't want their kids around. So if they don't want the kids around, then they're putting it onto the system. So I understand that there's a need for people like that. But it seems like we've taken on more people in the town since
They were
we
all
opened.
intense. Anyway, yeah, it was needed. And it's not easy. And there's no easy answer for what you're asking. We just got to do what we can.
So with regards to needles and stuff around town, who's going to be cleaning those up?
We're actually, I can talk to you after and we can exchange contacts, and I can actually let you know there's going to be a harm reduction educational session within this community for all professionals and the general public coming up soon. So that's actually a great question to ask. It's going to be held by Avenue B in St. John on harm reduction, and it is going to be for professionals and also for all community members. So if you want to come and ask those questions, that would be the appropriate place where we can really dive into that and see what those sort of programs look like.
Okay. We got to move on. We got a lot of other items to talk about, because if we don't do these items, it can create a lot more of these items that we're talking about. So we still got to keep the community moving. But definitely take you up on that. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Nope.
Rescue meeting to go to, so.
All right, thanks for coming.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Okay, next up. So next up, we got the, I need a mover and seconder for the deputy, for all the departmental reports. Councilor Harding, Councilor Heislip. Start off with the Deputy CEO report, Protective Services. Mr. Morton, please.
Right, under Protective Services, we have fire, bylaw, and building inspection. I do have a few things I discussed, but before I do that, are there any questions of council from my reports? Okay. We had nine calls. 8 of them were within the municipal district and 1 was out. I would add that we had 1 more that I'm aware of that the Oak Bay station responded to, and that was a motor vehicle accident. So we actually did have 3 motor vehicle accidents within our service area. And 1 structure fire. Both departments were working together on that. So to the comment of one of our citizens earlier about the St. Stephen firefighters having to get up to speed on how to fight rural firefighters, fight rural fires. We've been doing it for years. If you had a fire 10 years ago in the rural area, chances are there were St. Stephen firefighters there. So you need not be concerned that we don't know how to fight fires in the rural area. All of our fires are rural, really, even in town, because hydrants don't really cut it. We have to haul water. We have to do the same things we do in the country here in town. So, and on that note, we've had 2 training sessions in the last week, joint training sessions between the crew at Oak Bay and the crew at the St. Stephen station. Tonight, they're training as we speak at the Oak Bay Hall. One of the issues that we're looking at is the difference between the air packs that are on the trucks in Oak Bay and the air packs that are on the truck in St. Stephen. So we're checking that box so that we can work with those independent of what station you come from. You can put on an air pack on, doesn't matter which truck comes off. So that box is being ticked tonight, and so that's going well. further to Jeff's comments, we will, in the very near future, within the next few weeks, begin interviewing potential firefighters, new, old, former, whatever. If you want to apply, you can come before the committee. The committee will be run by the firefighters themselves. And the reason being is that they need to be a unit, they need to gel as a unit, and if you want to be part of that unit, you got to go through the volunteers. I will certainly have a role to play on that, but the integrity of the team, it starts that way, and that is not new. I've been in the fire service for 35 years. If you want to join a volunteer fire department, the first step is you have to get through the firefighters. We won't bring one in if we're going to lose 6, and I'll just put it to you that simply. So the firefighters will come to me. That committee will consist of members of both stations, and they will bring forward a list of recommendations. We already have 3 that were pre-recommended for the St. Stephen station prior to all of what's gone on. We've held them back just because of everything that's going on, but I feel that in the very near future we will have a fairly significant influx of new blood and old blood. So we will be in good shape. I've been working, there was some talk about notification and emergency plans and boil orders. I'm also working on the emergency plan in the background because we are a new entity, so we want to bring that up to date to reflect beyond the borders of the former town. That work is ongoing, and I've thought the same thing. Okay, we need a specific plan related to boil orders, so that will get integrated. And I'm also working on the response matrix, which is a fancy word for what trucks and what people go where for what type of calls within the municipal district. We're a huge district, so we need to divide it up into subunits. For instance, if you live in Upper Mills, you're going to see different trucks than you would see if you live in Warwick. So that's a fair bit of work. We are working on that. Not to say that you're unprotected now. In fact, you're probably overprotected right now in that trucks from both stations are going all directions. We're overcompensating right now to make sure that the fears of the community are looked after. So you are protected. The firefighters that are coming are the same firefighters that have been coming for years. No need to fear. I think that hits the highlights on fire. I really don't have a whole lot to say about bylaw or building. So that's that on protective services. As far as infrastructure goes, again, if there's any specific questions from council, I would take them. I'm not seeing any, okay. Just a couple of updates. On my second page, under other, I have a couple paragraphs there describing some of the things that have gone on. Paragraph 2 talks about a meeting Assistant Treasurer Godso and I had with the insurance provider to get some assistance with cash flow and to get the burnout structure removed. We have received $200,000 in advance to help with cash flow, and the building was removed. I think they finished actually today. So those 2 items have been dealt with in the last week and a half. Paragraph 3 talks about phase 3. With respect to that is ongoing. The tender was received, but there's still some work to work out some details. We are ordering a 20-foot sea container to house those new blowers in when they come, because obviously we're not going to have a building right away. And we're gearing up for sweeping, horticulture, and line painting. So it's the change of seasons. We can't put the plows and the sanders away yet because we all know what happens if we do that. But we're very hopeful that we won't have to use them, and we are getting geared up for the spring and summer activities. So stay tuned for a sweeper near you.
How was our winter compared to last winter, snow related for our crew?
Very similar, very similar. A lot more salting and sanding than plowing, but that's typical for here. You get those little messes that you got to go out and put salt on, but don't really necessarily have to plow. Typical, I would say. Yep.
Okay. Oh, Councillor Heislip?
I know you're working with the insurance company and Mr. Godso, and are we gonna, what's our expectations about what's being covered? A lot of people in the community don't know because their toilet's still flushed. We lost our whole lagoon there, what was it, in October, was it?
October 28th. Yeah.
October 28th, the whole lagoon burnt and all the equipment and our blowers, and we've been getting those replaced, and because the toilet's still flushed, we didn't have to put an order out, but we've been dealing with that, and insurance is, of course, you have to go through that, you know, the horrific stories of going through insurance, but I mean, are we gonna get like diesel covered and that kind of stuff? Is that what we're going for, or is that something that they would cover, or?
To answer you, we don't have a final answer yet. Frank could probably answer some of those questions, but I know he doesn't have all the answers either.
Go for everything and hopefully something falls out, yeah.
And see what we get at the end. And in all honesty, will they cover everything? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. But we'll see.
So for council, request to speak through me so we can make sure that the televised part can work. And anyway, so that's good though. Thanks. Okay. Any more questions for Sean? All right, thank you. Southwest Service Commission Municipal District Planning Report. And that would be you again, Vivian. Thank you.
Hi again, everyone. I am delivering the planning report on behalf of my planning director, Alex Henderson. So planning-wise, the planning department is preparing for a new subdivision bylaw to meet a new provincial legislative requirements. That's, same across the board. Every municipality has to follow the same rules. The planning director also attended a provincial roundtable with all the planning directors somewhere else, I think Edmundston. They talked about issues such as the new subdivision requirements from the province. New updates should include DTI-approved streets within the municipal jurisdiction. And they also talked about guidance on sending subdivision approvals to the Surface and Source Water Management Branch, which is DLG. So DLG is encouraging wetland delineations when we have subdivisions with those features on it. So that's from the planning part. Development part, we've processed 16 building and development permit applications. We reviewed them for zoning compliance, and then we sent them on to the building inspector to issue the permit. And the total estimated construction value is a little bit more than $1.6 million so far, so it's pretty good. We processed 5 zoning confirmation letters or registry document exemptions issued to date in 2023. We processed 2 variance approvals in this reporting period, and then we have a subdivision of 3 lots and 1 parcel within this reporting period. And in your package, there's a detailed breakdown of what we've approved so far. So if you're interested, definitely have a look. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Any questions on that report from council? Okay, thanks so much, Vivian. Community services report, facility maintenance. Mr. Sumner, please.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to reiterate what the chief said just about this time of year. It's a funny one for our buildings. Very cool at night, pretty cool at night, and then warm in the day. And tracking and all that sand and salt and things, it's not always easy to manage, and we try and do our best. So if anyone has any concerns, they can always let us know. But appreciate the work that our team does, and of course, as the chief said, his crew is doing a little bit of horticultural prep as well. Just until our parks crew start, they'll be coming over. One of our horticulturists, she started yesterday. We're looking for summer students, as always. If there is any interested out there, always kind of looking out for jobs and lifeguards and summer students. And we've got parks positions opening as well. And you will see some adverts going out there. We sadly were the victim of vandalism ourselves on the front. The lights that were around the trees, the extension cords got damaged and burned. I think they were after the copper, but that's one of the things that we've had to deal with, and it's unfortunate. But And just going back to the reports, if there's anything there, first of all, starting with Jeremy's report, he's in charge of the facility management. He's in touch with the building at all times. In fact, just half an hour ago, it was pretty warm in here, and he got all the air going. So it just shows we're kind of in tune all the time. And the night of the boil water advisory, it was Michelle who got the word out to CHCO and 98.1 just to let everyone know. So it's a busy time always in community services. So I just want to give the guys a heads up because they don't always get the credit that they deserve. So in regards to the rest of the report, I'll give you a quick update on the projects. As Jeff mentioned, the new sign has been installed. We should hope to see images going on that in the next week or so, just getting the formatting from the sign company, and that will be a nice addition to that. We're also in discussion with Bell just to improve Wi-Fi in the courtyard plaza area, just for Five Kings, for the library, for when we have events in there. With the snow hopefully going soon and hopefully drying out the Elm Street Nature Park and the dog park that is going in there, been in touch with the volunteers that are doing that work. The pool deck project, which we've had 2 tenders open in the last year. We didn't get any bids in those, but for the third tender, which it's open right now, we've had to revise the specs on that. Has brought the price down, which is a good thing, we hope. We just want to get some interest in that. So there's always something, that we need to work on in the building. On a positive note, we had a donation of skates and skating equipment from Milltown Elementary School, which we'll be offering as a library service. So instead of just somebody using it for an hour or so, they can take it home, see if they come back at their own convenience. We're applying for grants for more funding for helmets and things, just to give everyone a chance who maybe can't afford that opportunity to skate. Our ice is in 12 months of the year, pretty much, unless it's grad, we put the floor down or we take the ice up just to do some work. But yeah, there's things going on, and we're also in discussion with the Oak Bay Community Hall members just to get the transition going. So it's busy as always this time of year. We're gearing up for parks and making the place look really nice. So if there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I've got a comment. I'm glad to see the Small Street shows back. It's always a big draw, and I'm glad to see that back. But on June the 3rd, you've got Wall of Fame. Now, I got a call today because I'm going to be on that wall, and they told me it was on the 10th. So, yeah, which is it?
Well, I'll clarify with Michelle. She's on her way back from Moncton,
No big deal.
and we'll get you that answer, and we'll get the word out.
Thank you.
Any more questions from council? Okay. Thank you, Kev. And Commissioners, aquatics. So you did aquatics, you did events, that's everything there. Okay, thanks. Next up, Treasury Report. Tim, please.
Thank you, Mayor. As usual, my report's in 3 sections: staff activity, statement of revenue and expenditures, and the check register. Starting with the staff activity since the last report, I don't think there's really anything I need to add, except maybe under projects. There's one on number 13, combined sewer separation, water main renewal, Union Street, Hawthorne to West. We've actually received financing approval for that now, so that's with the engineers, so that's moving ahead. The School Street one, we're still in the process of working on getting the financing approval on that one. So hopefully we'll get that going fairly soon as far as getting the approval for any work starts on that project. Statement of revenue expenditures. There's 2 statements there, one for the general operating fund and one for the utility operating fund. The general operating fund will be for all the wards, not just the town of St. Stephen as it used to be last year, of course. On it, it'd be nice if all the expenses and revenue came in at equal levels every month, but it doesn't. 1/12 is 8%, but you can see a lot of the revenues, expenses are up and down, depending on when we're actually incurring some of these expenses. The surplus in that account for the month of January, $216,887. For the utility operating fund, currently right now it's showing a deficit of $152,267. And that's because we send our quarterly water bills quarterly. And of course, the next one would be in March. So that deficit should turn into a surplus hopefully in March on it. And finally, for the statement of revenue, or statement of the check register listing for the month of February, it shows paid bills a little over $1.2 million on it. So, and that's it for my report. If anybody has any questions.
Thanks. And it's fine. I don't know why.
Anyway, how much money is left in the community grant fund?
Right now, council has budgeted $50,000 for 2023, and right now, council's approved expenses of about $14,000 out of that fund, so there's about $35,000 left.
And that's for the whole municipality of St. Steve District, for everyone, in case they would want. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Yep. Thank you, Worship. Yeah, no, thank you. Good question. All right, next up is, well, there's no one here for future St. Stephen report.
Mr. Williams does send his regrets, but if there are any questions, we'll happily get them to him so he can address either by email or at next month's meeting.
I figured I went in their office and I went to see the chamber and future St. Stephen. No one was in there today, so they must. Okay, so any questions on future St. Stephen report? Just bring them to them next time, or email them or call them. All right, we had our questions. All those in favor of the departmental reports?
Aye.
I should do that again. I'll wait for Wade. I forgot that Wade wasn't sitting here. No, that's okay. So all those in favor of the departmental reports? And aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much. Okay, I need a mover and seconder for bylaw number M-2-04, a bylaw to amend the bylaw number M-2 being municipal plan bylaw for the town of St. Stephen. Councillor Heislip. Councillor Eastman. That the bylaw number M-2-04, a bylaw to amend bylaw number M-2, being a municipal plan bylaw for the town of St. Stephen, be given its first reading by title, and that the draft bylaw be forwarded to the Planning Review Adjustment Committee seeking their written views. Any questions on that? All those in favor of the first reading? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next up, bylaw. I need a mover and seconder for bylaw number Z-3-01, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z-3, being zoning bylaw for the town of St. Stephen. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Harding.
Second.
Deputy Mayor Wheaton. The bylaw number Z-3-01, a bylaw to amend the bylaw number Z-3, being zoning bylaw for the town of St. Stephen, be given its first reading by title, and that the draft bylaw be forwarded to the Planning Review Adjustment Committee seeking their written views. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, new business. Okay, I need a mover and seconder for the C1BI National Historical Site. Councillor Heislip. Councillor Greenlaw. The council approved the application to the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada for the property at 6 and 8 King Street in St. Stephen that contains the world's oldest basketball court as a National Historic Site. Any questions? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councilor Harding.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wondered, with this application to the historic sites, does that mean that you'll get your charitable tax number earlier? It may be totally independent, but it's important.
It's, yeah, totally independent. This is just to make it a National Historic Site, to get some traction going as far as funding, and, well, National Historic Site means a big thing, right? And that's totally independent than the process of going and getting a charitable number, which is another process, which is a lot of hoops to go through.
All right, on that note, is no more questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. A mover and seconder. Oh, hold on now. What am I doing here? Counselor. Oh, we need to appoint someone first. Yeah, you certainly can, because you might help me. I'm going to move forward here anyway.
There are a lot of council representation boards, and I've been on 2 or 3 of them, and if anybody wishes to go on any of the ones that I'm currently on, it's more than their right to go. And I don't hear anybody jumping up and volunteering here, but I mean, I'm on the Charlotte County Museum Board and Canada First Basketball Board, and the Legacy Committee is still meeting, but it's not really a board of council that they appoint a member. But if anybody's interested, then I don't mind getting my toe stepped on, and, you know, I'll still continue, but I mean, so I see that we only have 3 there, and there's really more than 3 that could possibly be on there if somebody wanted it, right?
So I'll ask, is there any council members interested in being on the municipal representative on the St. Croix Library Board? I would do that. You? Okay, Councilor Wright. Does anyone else have any interest?
Do they want more than one?
Well, I'm good with one, because I only got so much room to write it in there. Yeah, okay. So on that note, thank you, Councilor Wright. So I need a mover and seconder for that Councilor Wright be appointed the municipal representative of the St. Croix Library Board. Councilor Greenlaw, Councilor Eastman. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations. Motion carried. All right, so we'll start out. We got the municipal representative for the St. Stephen Area Chamber of Commerce Board. Okay. And so you've been, okay, and you as well?
They've been inviting me in, and anyway, they asked me. Yeah, okay, it doesn't matter, Mark.
Go ahead, I've been there. Been there, done it. No, it's no big battle, no.
No, I'd like to get some representation there, because we need to get together with that group. All right, so, you guys, Wade, you drew the short straw on that one? Okay. All right, mover and seconder that Councilor Greenlaw be appointed the municipal representative on the St. Stephen Area Chamber of Commerce Board. And Councilor Eastman and Councilor Harding, any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so now we have the municipal representative for the St. Stephen Business, for the BIA, the Downtown St. Stephen Board. All right. Okay. All right.
Why?
All right, you just got her. All right. That, a mover and seconder that Councilor Rodas be appointed to the municipal representative of the St. Stephen Business Improvement Area Downtown St. Stephen Board. Councilor Wright, Councilor Heislip. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations. Motion approved. Thank you so much. Okay, next up. I need a mover and seconder for the proposed resolution that council direct administration to prepare a bylaw amendment to adjust the start time. Well, we need the start time first. Let's get that first.
Yeah, it's part of the discussion, Your Worship.
Your Worship, I would defer to Councillor Heisler. This came from him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's just that the reasoning for this is I've had a few calls, and I know that people work on this here too, and at 5 o'clock is kind of a hard time to get members of the public to come to a meeting that are working, and members of council that have a day job as well. So I'd propose, and it's up for discussion when you'd like to start, if it's 5:30, 6 o'clock, or just gives people an opportunity to get home, get a bite to eat, and come to a meeting, right? And a lot of them feel that they're being left out of, I know you're retired, just a lot of people feel that they're being left out of the meetings because of the time that they're set.
So I hear 6 o'clock?
6 is fine.
6? 6?
6 o'clock's good for me.
Well, hold on. How about how do you guys, staff, feel about 5:30?
We're born to serve, Your Worship.
I know. All right. Okay. What's that for? All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, we might as well make it a round number. 6 o'clock. Gee, that's a big change. It's been 5 o'clock for years. Okay. 6 o'clock. 6 p.m. that is. So, mover and seconder that council direct administration to prepare a bylaw amendment to adjust the start time of the monthly municipal district council meetings to 6 p.m. Mover and seconder, please.
So moved.
Councilor Harding? Councilor Eastman? Any questions on that?
Starting next month?
Well, I was going to let that resolution get dealt with first, and then I was going to pipe in with another idea. So.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead, Jeff.
Your Worship, under your procedural bylaw, you, as the mayor, have the ability to adjust the start time temporarily. So if it's the desire of council that this be take effect immediately, you could direct me as clerk to postpone start times until 6 p.m. until that bylaw is dealt with.
Okay.
Because we do have to do the bylaw amendment, but on a temporary basis, you can direct the clerk to delay the start until 6 p.m.
All right. How do you guys all feel, and girls, about me directing to start immediately? All right. Consider it started.
Thank you.
I'm going to change all those in my calendar. All right.
Once and it says all of you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. All right, so next up, I need a mover and seconder for the Neighborhood Works proposal that council approve $20,000 community grant in 2023 for a capital campaign known as Better Together. Future grant funding for the remaining $40,000 requested contingent on future council budgets. So what we're saying is $20,000 may not be next year, but it'll be discussed again next year, as budget will allow, if it's available. So, a mover and seconder, please.
So moved.
Councilor Wright? Councilor Rodas? Any questions? Councilor Eastman?
Yes, sir. Do we have anything in place for people that we give money to that we see where the money is going, like a financial audit?
I believe the budget is in the, I believe in the proposal at our first municipal council meeting, the package that was presented included the financial statements for review by council. So it was open and transparent as to where the money was going.
Yeah, what I read here, is this what you're talking about, this document?
Yeah. Really doesn't, it's pretty broad-based. And I feel as we're giving out taxpayers' money here, that maybe we should be asking a little bit focused on exactly where the money's going. Like, I mean, they mention here refurbishing the church. Well, the refurbishing the church out of taxpayers' money that somebody else owns that building. So I'm not opposed to giving out money, but I mean, if the people are not being financial accountable for it to us, so we can be financial accountable to the taxpayer for it, then I think we got an issue.
So, for my own person, like the reason that I would support this is I'm providing the funds for the service, not for what they put that money into that year. They're going to provide that service to our community for that year. And, but, you know, you're right. I mean, if they have all kinds of money, then that's a whole different story. But in my discussions with them, that's not the case. They need a lot more than that, but anyway.
Well, they actually stated here, too, that they're getting federal funding and they're getting provincial funding.
Yeah, and it's usually contingent on us doing our part as well. Yeah, but no, they're good questions, yeah. Yeah.
Just in the past, on some specific grants, it has been a condition on the granting that either like a follow-up appearance at council to report back on the use of the fund. That has happened. We've done that with certain groups in the past. So I don't know if that would meet Councillor Eastman's goal. You know, especially when they're talking about hopefully coming for 2 more installments down the road potentially. I mean, I think it would be very appropriate that, you know, certainly before another application comes in, that there be a report back to council on the use of the original funding. I think if that met Councillor Eastman's intent. Just a suggestion.
Sure. Yeah.
Committee was supposed to investigate the whole thing and come back with a complete report with regards to, you know, intricate details, how much funding was there, how it was going to be spent, the whole thing, right? It did?
Our committee. We sent it to your committee, I believe, or somebody's committee, to find out where the money was being spent, to find out how many people were using it, how many people they were feeding, if they were feeding just the town, or people who were really in need. Yeah, we sent that out and didn't get it back.
I didn't see it, so, yeah.
Well, hence why we want to get everyone together on these committees, right? That just further enforces the fact. Yeah. All right, any more questions?
I just have a comment. I know that
Councillor Heislip?
Councillor Heslop. Councillor. I know that there was some funding also for that coldest night of the year. They increased their funding by what, double or? So I don't know if that
They
changed.
raised twice as much as they
So would that change the need or, like, I don't know those questions. I don't know the answers to those questions, so.
And I understand Councillor Heislip, they just got a big donation from United Way. I don't know if that's right or not, but is it, Councillor Rodas?
However,
I'm not privy to that information, so, but it would be beneficial for have a follow-up of where they spent this money, so it gives us some kind of idea of what moving forward and what kind of funding they're getting. I think that's a good avenue out for sure, so, not out, but it's a good avenue to have anyway on anything to how you spent your money. Like we requested people to go away and they come back and say, I went away and did this competition or whatever and showed us their work, and same as the film that we supported. It's the same as the Chocolate Museum, that they always give their financials and say, this is why we need this, our bottom line, this is why we need it. But I think the follow-up for this would be appropriate.
So are we saying follow-up will be contingent on next year's funding, so to speak?
It's funding here. So just come back and when we give them the funding at the end of the year, say this is what we used your funding for, and this is what we need funding for in the future. And I think that would be appropriate.
Do we need to table this until we put something on paper?
I think we can do the funding contingent on them coming back and giving us a report on, or as part of the you know, as part of the process, right? We can probably do the funding or approve the funding and then have that as a stipulation. Could you come back to council and say what you spent the
I mean, it's pretty clear cut that they are doing 8 units of transitional housing, youth 16 to 22, like that. It is going to be a community service hub. That's been well publicized, community partners all using the space. So, but I'm not opposed to even, you know, a written or verbal report. I would actually like to hear, so it's not a bad idea.
20,000 is way too much. It's more than we give anybody else. I'm not even sure I'd go along with any funding, because as long as these people are being enabled in the town, it's hurting our constituents, and I don't like that. So I'm not sure I would give anything, but I think 20,000 is way, way off the mark. Thank you, Your Worship.
Any other questions or comments, council?
I would just like to make sure that the grant is based on true need. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. What's the true need? Same as if a student wants a student loan or a bursary, you know, it's based on financial need. So that's what I'd like. I don't really see that, right? You know, there's some stuff in there about what they're going to spend it to, but, you know, what's the true financial need? What's the big financial picture? Why do they need that 20,000?
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I sat on the committee when they were establishing a fundraising committee. And I'll tell you, I'm very, very impressed with what they're doing at the Neighborhood Works. And they have a whole series of things that they're doing and projects. And I would even ask anybody here if you're certainly welcome to go anytime to Neighborhood Works, and they will give you a tour and explain the programs that they're offering. And I'll tell you, it's a number, and I can see where they're going to even need much more money than what they're asking for. So, and like the mayor explained, when they do apply for grants, they have to be, like the town has to be supporting what they're doing, you know, have a commitment to their program. But they're, like if you've been there, you would be impressed on what they're doing, so.
Yeah, and I may have already said this, but it does seem like a lot of money, but it's like the policing issue we were talking about. If we don't do this, would that policing issue be worse, not better? Like, we don't, we got to do something, you know. And Neighborhood Works is actually bringing all the groups together. You know, they're having, every week they have a different group come in, a different church comes in, and you know, they're like the hub, like, so to speak. So, and it's just, anyway. So what am I hearing from councils? You want to go to a vote, or do you want to just right to a vote, or? Because I've heard table and, no?
There's not a question here. This
Yep.
is budgeted too. This is inter-community grant, right? So I just wanted everybody to know that.
That was verified tonight, yep. Yep. All right, so I've already read it, and sorry?
Can we have something to say about this?
At question period you did, yeah. Not now, sorry. If it was, I mean, I want to hear what you have to say, so I'm gonna just go for it. Go for it, Ed.
Why don't we forget giving them any more money and start putting the money toward fixing the roads and the infrastructure in this town? And looking after the taxpayers that afford all this.
Yep. $20,000 won't do much of that. Okay, anyways. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
The thing I do see about this in terms of $20,000, it's not one specific program. So when I look at this, $20,000, if they're providing housing for youth, if they're providing space for other agencies to come in, if they're providing community dinners, if they're providing all of these, they're looking at potentially in the future recovery-based programs for men. Like, when I see $20,000 in this case, it's not towards one specific program. It's actually probably towards, 5 or 6 to begin with, and that room for growth. So I just want to make note of that it is a unique situation where this is a community hub involving a high number of agencies and supporting a high number of individuals beyond just the current individuals they're serving. At some point, from my understanding based on the tours, they will be it will be a space for any business or any organization to have access to rent a space. It could even be a shared office space, right? So we just need to remember that it's not based on the current situation we're in. This is just their first steps, and they're growing in many different directions.
That's why a financial statement would actually specify on that.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to say something else. In the finance committee that we had, there was a larger package from the Works that was on that committee. and this is just the letter that's there. So that package is actually still on under the Finance Committee for February, and it has the entire package from Neighborhood Works with financial statements and everything combined. It's a number of pages long, but this is just has the letter in it for right now.
All right. Any more questions? All right, let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3. Oh, 4, 5. Any opposed? 2. Oh, 3. Okay. Motion carried. Okay. Next up, I need a mover and seconder for that council approve the community grant of $3,000 to the Charlotte County Alternative Transportation Association, brackets Dial-A-Ride. Councilor Wright?
Second.
Councilor Heislip? Any questions? No questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Mover and seconder for council to approve the community grant fund of $400 for the turnaround achievements, in brackets ASD-S. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Harding? Councilor Rodas? Any questions?
Can I ask what it is?
The Turnaround Achievement Awards, it's, they have that every year. It's for the, well, actually, Tim, you asked. Yeah, well, yeah. It's, sorry? Okay.
Speak about how they used our money.
Or go to the internet and see it, because, okay. Anyways, any more questions? Or you got it? Okay, all right. Was there any more questions? I was just looking one way, sorry. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. In your package, you got correspondence, property owner, request for compensation. Any questions on that or comments from council? Okay. Do I have to accept that officially, or that's just correspondence? What?
For information.
All right, council reports, which has all been submitted. And, oh, we do gotta do that, do we? Okay, so, all right. Instead of just, okay, normally we just would, okay. So anyway, everyone submitted their reports. Could I have a mover and seconder to accept all the mayor and councilor reports?
So moved.
Councilor Wright, Councilor Eastman. Any questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Yeah, I gotta do a proclamation here. Okay. Excuse me there for a second, everyone. Phobia, all right. Okay. All right, International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. Whereas New Brunswick Human Rights Act recognizes that no one can be discriminated against on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity or expression. Whereas New Brunswick is a society open to everyone, including lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans people, LGBTQ+, and all other people who identify with sexual diversity and multiplicity of gender and identities and expressions. Whereas, despite the recent efforts towards greater inclusion of LGBT people, homophobia and transphobia are still present in society. Whereas, May 17th, the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, is celebrated as such. in many countries and the result of Quebec-based initiative promoted by a foundation emergence starting 2003. Whereas there is a reason to support the efforts of a foundation emergence, in holding this day. Therefore, I, Al McCachran, Mayor of the Municipal District of St. Stephen, do hereby proclaim May 17th International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia in the Municipal District of St. Stephen, and to recognize this day as such. Okay. And Lyme disease. Okay, Lyme Disease Awareness Month. Whereas Lyme disease is one of the fastest growing vector-borne illnesses in the world, and whereas the population of ticks, the primary vector of the transmission of Lyme disease in New Brunswick and other parts of Canada, is growing and expanding in New Brunswick. And whereas the number of New Brunswickers suffering from Lyme disease is increasing from one year to the next. And whereas awareness plays a key role in making this disease known to the public, as well as steps to take to prevent the contacting of the disease. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Al McCachran, Mayor of the Municipal District of St. Stephen, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 as Lyme Awareness Month in the Municipal District of St. Stephen, New Brunswick. Whew. All right, and I need a mover and seconder to move to closed. Councilor Harding, I got Councilor Wright, but thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so your worship, the recommended resolution would be that council authorizes the mayor and clerk to execute the 2 financial agreements in the forms presented to council.
Okay. As read, any questions? Or mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Wheaton, Councilor Greenlaw. Any questions on the resolution? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried, sir. Motion to adjourn. Okay, thank you so much, Councilor Harding. A seconder, Councilor Otis. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much.
Thank you, CHCO.
Thank you, CHCO.